तत्परम्पर्यय विद्महे ज्ञानलिङ्गेश्वराय धीमहि तन्नो गुरुः प्रचोदयाते। ओम योग महर्षि डॉक्टर स्वामी गीतानंद गिरि गुरु महाराज की जय। नमस्ते, नमस्कारम, स्वागतम, किया ओरा, हुया मोरे, शुभ दिनम, सुप्रभात. Welcome to our 52nd session of Scintillating Saturdays. Today marks the completion of 1 year of these sessions that started last year in July. And a couple of days back, I was looking at it and I said, oh, we are completing 1 full year, 52 weeks. So thank you for being with me all these weeks, all these months, and this whole year. Because without you there, I don't think I would have the motivation to keep sharing as much as I'm doing. Today, we are looking at a topic, Vivekam. And I have subtitled it the Superpower of Choice. Those of you who know me, you know very well that I have the firm conviction that the superpower of being human is the power of choice. Because at the level of the subhuman, we are a bundle of impulses. The subhuman life is one of a bundle of impulses. It's instinctive, reflexive, reactionary. But as a human being, because of that power of choice, that is why I keep on saying it's our superpower. Because of that power of choice, we as a human being can choose to shift our consciousness from that subhuman, reactionary, reflexive, instinctive, impulsive pattern of life, and we can choose to grow into a more responsive, intuitive pattern of mindful living. And this jump, the leap in consciousness, everybody wants to find the missing link in the evolutionary journey of the human being. Well, that missing link is where suddenly one day, it doesn't happen one day, but there's always that moment where the final, bit happens. It's like, the water tank is filling, and there's one point where suddenly it is full. The point between it not being full and the point between it being full is sort of the final point where other things happen. So, when we look at the human evolutionary journey, what we find is that we were stuck in instinctive, impulsive, reactionary pattern of life, which is a cyclic pattern called samskara, doing the same thing, sama, kara. Kara means to do, samskara, doing the same thing again and again and again and again and hoping something will change. Nothing will change. Expecting change to happen when you do the same thing again and again is insanity. You have to do something different if something different is to happen, okay? We have always done it this way. Yeah, you'll always stuck there. Do it differently and suddenly a change occurs. So this moment where from being locked in the 5 senses that are connected to the 5 lower spinal centers, to the Pancha Mahabhuta, the Karmendriyas, the Jnanendriyas and all, the Tanmatras, all the 5, which came up to the throat, Mooladhara, Swadhisthana, Manipuraka, Anahata, Vishuddha. Suddenly there was a leap from the throat to the brow. This is where it had to cross the jaw. And our jaws as primitive human beings had to go in and the forebrain had to come out. There had to be remodeling from this to this. There's this jump. And the energy till here was circling. Okay, spiraling, but circling. Suddenly there's a jump, and at the Ajna, it is not spiraling anymore. It's left to right, 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 hang shang, 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 hang shang. That is at the Ajna. Up to here it was wang shang shang sang bang bang mang yang rang lang dang da hang nang dang da hang nang kang hang gang hang nang chang 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 nang. All the petals are going in circles here, and suddenly, hang shang. Suddenly, the whole pattern of consciousness has shifted. Because when the Ajna, the intuitive center, the center of inner intuition, it is not an externalized knowing. That is why it is Ajna, is where you are transcending knowledge and moving into wisdom. That leap where knowledge becomes wisdom, where suddenly the bigger picture becomes apparent to you. Till then you were stuck with all the small molehills. Suddenly you realize what is the mountain, and suddenly your perspective changes. That is where the Ajna comes in. And the moment the Ajna chakra is opened. Well, as I said the other day, the chakras are open, we are opening to it. Okay, we are unblocking. It's like the sun is there, some of you have your windows closed. And you say, I cannot see the sun. Yeah, open your windows, the sun is there. It's as simple as that. So this is opening our windows, opening our pathways, unblocking our pathways which have been blocked by our faulty thinking, faulty habits, faulty lifestyle, or whatever it may be. When this Ajna opens up, suddenly the two important powers, Viveka, Vairagya. Now Vairagya I've already detailed earlier, the Apara and Para Vairagya. Vairagya towards the sensory objects, and then Vairagya towards even the higher state of Kaivalya itself. The capacity for non-attachment, a dispassionate, non-attached objectivity, which in modern terms is called metacognition. Vairagya. But that's not the topic for today, but Vairagya has to be brought into the equation when you talk about Viveka. Viveka is the capacity to discern. This is a very important capacity to help us grow out of that impulsive, reactionary, reflexive pattern to a responsive, intuitive, reflective pattern of lifestyle, living. This jump requires discernment. Now, if you look at older translations, and even many people use it today, they say Viveka is discrimination. Now, when you say discrimination, today discrimination has become a very bad word. It's loaded with so much of stuff that I prefer to avoid the word discrimination. I know why it was used earlier, but I would prefer to change from discrimination to discernment. It's a very important linguistic change because of the heavy baggage that the word discrimination has. But their idea was the same as what we are talking now, but they were using the word discrimination. So you can just replace, select all, find discrimination, replace with discernment. Okay, and you're on the same path. They were saying the same thing, it was just the linguistics. Discernment is the capacity to understand that you have a choice. Till that point, remember, up to the Vishuddha, you were like, I have no choice, this is how I have to be. This is what I have to do. We have always done it this way. This is how I do it. This is how my parents did it. This is how my society does it. This is how my religion does it. We Indians do it. We Italians do it. We South Americans do it. We Mexicans do it. We Canadians do it. All of that was without discernment. That is the samskara pattern. Samskara and vasana driving karma matrix. We have seen that. Now suddenly you have an opportunity to say, well, I can do it differently. I have the power of choice to decide to do it differently. There was a moment in human history where suddenly people started to realize slavery was not the right way to go. There was a moment. There was a moment where people realized women not having the rights that the men had was wrong. There was a moment where suddenly somebody woke up. Till then everybody was like, this is the norm. This is what we do. This is how we do it. Suddenly somebody woke up in human history. That's a social transformation when discernment comes into society. At the individual level, there is an opportunity to say, I am going to do it differently. I choose not to be like the herd. Because what is the herd? The herd mentality is that old mentality. Impulsive, instinctive, reactionary, reflexive. That is the herd mentality. And suddenly you say, I am not going to be part of the herd. I am going to go out on my own trajectory. And suddenly you move out of the samskara pattern and you go off on a tangent, and that is the moment where the Ajna is coming into full force. And that is where the power of Viveka, Vairagya, they are coming into full force. So this Vivekam, the power of discernment, the power of choice, the superpower of being human, is to be cultivated. That is the message of yoga. And when we talk about yoga, for me, I do not like to say, oh, this is yoga, that is Sankhya, that is Vedanta, that is Mimamsa, and separate it. For me, yoga is one, and everything is yoga. And the whole of the Sanatana Dharma, the Indian culture, the pan-Indian culture, which is the eternal responsibility, a life of eternal responsibility, taking responsibility for yourself. The choice, yes, I will be responsible for my thoughts, words, and actions. What a change from, I am not responsible to anybody for anything. I am me. From that, there's such a huge leap of, evolutionary leap of transformation occurring in that one moment. Where you say, I will stand up to be counted. Come what may. I can, I will, I am able, as Ammaji so beautifully tells us. I can, I am, I will, I am able. What does the animal say? The animal, the subhuman say, I can't, I won't, I'm not able. I can't, I won't, I'm not able. And there's a leap. I can, I will, I am able. That is the power of Viveka. Where you say, yes, I can, I will, I'm able. What a beautiful message Amma has given us about Viveka here. And this Viveka is driven by the Buddhi, the higher aspect of our consciousness that has the capacity of discernment and to make a choice based on three powers. Ichcha Shakti, the power of intent. Kriya Shakti, the power of action. And Jnana Shakti, the power of wisdom. You need to know Jnana Shakti. You need to want to do Ichcha Shakti. And you need to do Kriya Shakti. And all three of them come together in the Buddhi. Where is the Buddhi? Vijnanamaya Kosha. Moving from the Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, now into the Vijnanamaya Kosha, where the Buddhi comes alive. Ichchayum kriyayum jnanamum inainda, Ichchayum kriyayum jnanamum inainda, Buddhiyai valarthen Vijnanamayathil, Buddhiyai valarthen Vijnanamayathil. In that Vijnanamayam, what you are doing? You are helping the Buddhi to grow stronger. And what is the Buddhi? It is having Ichcha, Kriya and Jnana Shakti. This is where that power of Vivekam lies. So when we talk about it, Adi Shankara, the revitalizer of Hinduism in the 6th and 7th century, he didn't live to be into his 4th decade. And attained so much, did so much for the cause of Indian culture. He has given a very amazing text on this called Viveka Chudamani, the crest jewel of Viveka. Viveka Chudamani. It has 500 plus, nearly 600, 580, like that. It's nearly 600 verses actually. And he gives a beautiful map of Vivekam. He talks about what a guru should be, what a student should be, the relationship between a guru and a student, what are the type of questions that need to be asked, how you go through the Panchakosha and go transcend it. And the questions are very, very deep. What is bondage? How did it arise? How did we get into this bondage with the Maya? I'm going to give the parallel in Patanjali soon. So what is bondage? How did it arise? How does it continue? How can it be eradicated? Then the question comes, what is the non-self, anatma, which Maharishi Patanjali also talks about? Who is the Paramatma? Now Vedanta looks at the concept of Paramatma and Jivatma. Yoga understands as Prakriti Purusha, that concept, and Ishvara. And how can we distinguish between the two? How do we know the difference? That is where Viveka comes in. And he gives a very beautiful example. This is found again and again in Indian culture. You know, this mistaking of a snake to be a serpent, to be a rope, and a rope to be a snake. This keeps on coming back again and again in our culture, especially when they talk about viparyaya and mithya jnanam, false knowledge. You see a rope and think it to be snake. Well, thinking a rope to be a snake is not so painful, but thinking a snake to be a rope and lifting it up and putting it around your neck, well, it can be very painful. Klishta vrittis of viparyaya. He gives an example. He says, you have fear and sorrow, the bhayam, because it is from fear that the rest of the spiral occurs. And dukkha, sorrow, painful, suffering sorrow. He says, you look at a rope and you say, it is a snake. There's a snake in my bed. Okay. There's a snake in my bed. Now what happens? All the stress response because of fear. All the pain. Oh my God. What am I going to do? What if it bites me? And blah, blah, blah. All that stuff comes into it. Panic. He says all of that fear, all of that suffering, all that sorrow can only be eradicated, can only be ended when you ascertain fully the truth. When you ascertain fully the truth that this is not a snake, it is a rope. The moment you realize in your consciousness, this is not a snake, this is a rope, all the fear, all the panic, all the anxiety, all the pain, all the suffering, all the hullabulla of the tsunami and the tornado, all of it subsides because you have finally realized it is not a snake, it is a rope. Adi Shankara gives this example. He says the same. As long as you think all of this Jagat, which is mithya, this illusionary world in which you live them, as long as you think it is real, you are stuck with the painful suffering and the panic attacks and anxiety, neurosis and fear psychosis. He says the moment Viveka opens up in you, you start to discern the reality. And you start to understand what is real, what is not real. This power of discernment, the highest power of discernment, the highest power of discernment, Viveka Khyati, as Maharishi Patanjali calls it. This highest power of discernment needs to be cultivated. Because when you have that highest power of discernment, you realize Dukkhameva sarvam vivekinaha. Maharishi Patanjali in the Sadhana Pada, the second part of the Yoga Sutra, Yoga Darshana, he tells us very beautifully, he says, Parinama tapa samskara dukkaihi gunavritti virodacha dukkhameva sarvam vivekinaha. I have goosebumps when I utter this sutra because this is the crux of it all. He says, Parinama tapa. He says we are having all this suffering because of the parinama, because you choose to go against the guna vritti. The guna vritti, just as chitta vritti is there, prana vritti is there, mano vritti is there, you have guna vritti. And the tornadoes of the gunas are keeping you stuck in this. The whirlpools of the gunas. Just as we have the whirlpools of the chitta, you have the whirlpools of the gunas that are pulling us down or carrying us wherever we don't want to be. What an amazing place to be. Because the guna vritti is there. We are caught in it. Because of that samskara dukkai. Everything is painful, but you don't know it. And you are caught in it. And he says you have to go against guna vritti virodacha. You have to untangle yourself from this whirlpool of the gunas. And then suddenly, when your viveka grows, dukkhameva sarvam vivekinaha, you realize all of this is dukkha. All of this is dukkha. And you say, let me get out of dukkha. And you start to swim against the current. You start your journey back home. Sweet Om. You make that journey back. And that is why, this verse is so beautifully brought out, because Maharishi Patanjali says the whole problem is because of avidya, ignorance. Now, ignorance is not really the word for avidya. Avidya is thinking you know, but you don't know. Thinking you know, but you don't know. Because you think, yes, I know, but you don't know. For example, one of the simple practical examples is the sun rises in the east. We all know that. We learned it in school. The reality is the sun never rises or sets. But you think you know, sun rises. And so you're always talking about sunrise. You are caught in avidya, but that avidya is not that I don't know where the sun rises, I don't know about the sun. What it is actually you think you know. And there are loads of people on this planet today who are filled with avidya. And because they think they know, but they don't know that they don't know, it is very difficult. The other day someone said, when you are dead, the pain is only felt by others. You don't feel the pain. When you are dead, others feel it. And then they say the same is with stupid. I say it's not with stupid, it's with avidya. Because everybody thinks they know, and they have loads and loads of PhDs in nonsense. PhDs in not knowing. PhDs in avidya. And because they think they know, you cannot change. That is why you can never change anybody's mind. You're lucky if you can change your mind. And yes, Terry, beginner's mind always. We have to be ready to empty the cup. If we cannot empty the cup, nothing can be filled in it. And that is why Maharishi Patanjali says, this suffering that is there, heyam, dukkham anagatam, he says, please try to prevent the misery. Why is the misery there? Because of Tasya hetu avidya. Because of avidya. What is avidya? The mistaking of the impermanent to be the permanent. Anitya to be nitya. Nitya means permanent, eternal. Anitya is impermanent, transient. You mistake the transient to be permanent. Anitya to be nitya. Asuchi to be suchi. You think the impure to be pure. You think dukkha is sukha. Sadomasochism of human beings. You think dukkha is sukha. Anitya, asuchi, dukkha, and then anatma, that which is not the self. Same thing Adi Shankara is saying. Anatma, the non-self. And you think this non-self to be the self. So the confusion between anitya to be nitya, impermanent to be permanent, asuchi to be suchi, the impure to be pure, dukkha to be sukha, suffering to be pleasure, and anatma to be atma kyati, thinking the non-self to be the self. This is what avidya is. The best ever definition of ignorance given by Maharishi Patanjali. He says avidya is the reason you have attached yourself to this impermanent, impure suffering that is not of the self, and you say me. It becomes so mean. Patanjali says, oh my God, you crazy human beings. Huh? Avidya is the reason you have gone and caught on to it. You are hugging the cactus and saying, oh, wow, I love cacti. He says, disentangle yourself. Same thing, Lord Krishna. Dukkha samyoga viyogam yoga sangitam. You have to disentangle yourself from your tendency to attach to suffering, attachment to the non-real. Vedanta calls it Maya. So what is happening? That is why Adi Shankara and many of his type have said, Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya. The Brahman is the only real. Jagat Mithya. Everything else is an illusion. Well, yoga doesn't call everything an illusion. It says it exists for the sake of the self. It exists for your experience, bhoga, and to help you in liberation, apavarga. Bhoga, apavargartam, drishyam, says the yoga darshana. So, yoga says it is there for your enjoyment, experience, and transcendence. Vedanta says all of this is false, only the Brahman is real. So, there's a slight difference. So, the firm conviction that Brahman alone is real and the phenomenal world, this transient phenomenal world, is unreal. That is where the Viveka comes. When you can start to understand what is real and what is unreal, presto, the Vivekam is starting to come. Vivekajam Jnanam is starting to grow in you. This is why the swan is used as the metaphorical example of this. By the capacity to drink the milk that has been mixed with the water, leaving the water behind. The fine discernment to drink the milk and leave the water behind. And that is why someone who has that is called Paramahamsa. The one who is the great, the one with the great capacity for discernment. And in that comes bliss, Vivekanandam. That is why he was called Vivekananda by Swami Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. Paramahamsa. Nowadays, every Tom, Dick and Harry is a Paramahamsa. Like every Tom, Dick and Harry is a yogi. Huh? The word Paramahamsa, oh my God, what a great word. What a great word. What a great word. Huh? The one who is capable of that highest discernment can sift the chaff from the wheat. You know, that capacity to find the thin line of difference. This is what is brought out again by Maharishi Patanjali, because he says, and he goes into the Vibhuti Pada, the end of the Vibhuti Pada, the third part of the Yoga Sutra. he actually gives half a dozen verses that are pure Kaivalya. And often I think that even if someone contemplates those verses in the Vibhuti Pada, they don't need the Kaivalya Pada because there's so much of already Kaivalya and its explanation given in Vibhuti Pada end itself. And towards the end, the last few verses, he gives us a concept. He says, Sattva Purusha Anyata Kyati Matrasya Sarva Bhava Adhishtatritvam Sarvajnatritvam Cha. He says what happens is that you are developing your discernment to such a level that your purest existence, Sattva and Purusha, you have been able to find the thin line, the twilight zone. Georg Feuerstein used to call all of this twilight language. The twilight zone, the thin line between light and darkness. You are able to find that gray area between the white and black. You are able to find that thin difference between your highest sattva, satvika sattva, and Purusha. And in that moment, Sarva Bhava Adhishtatritvam Sarvajnatritvam Cha, you will understand the highest level of transcendental wisdom itself. Sarvajna. Because that is where the moment comes. And he says, how do you get to that? He says every moment, there's a constant changing moment. The one term I love with Maharishi Patanjali is the term Kshana, which means a moment. Now a moment can be a second, a microsecond, a day, a year, a lifetime. But Kshana. That moment, he says everything is a succession of moments. He says when you start to contemplate each moment, Kshana Tat Kramayo. Krama means a sequence. So what is a film? A video film is basically a series of still images. And even now what you can do is whenever you want to pause this video, you pause it and you have an image. It is a Kshana. When it is running, it is a Kshana Tat Krama. A Krama is a sequence of Kshanas. So basically your video is a sequence of images. And normally we are caught up with the video so we don't realize each image separately. You slow it down. You slow down your thought process. How do you slow down your thought process? Slow down your breath process. The moment you slow down your breath process, your thought process is slowed down. The moment your thought process slows down, there's a space created. And in that space, you can start to slow down the video of your own existence and start to understand the sequence of the images of your own existence. Kshana Tat Kramayo. He says, as you start to contemplate, this is the Samyama, 3rd chapter. So Samyama, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi. When you are contemplating with such intensity, the all scattered mind has become one-pointed. It's become ekagra. It has become a laser beam of mindful focus. And that focus is now on each of the sequences, each point in the sequence. Kshana Tat Kramayo Samyamat. When you start to contemplate it, Vivekam Jnanam. That is where the highest wisdom of discernment comes alive in you. You have to slow down. You have to look at your life in slow motion. How do you make life slow motion? Speed up your consciousness. The slower your consciousness, the faster life seems to be. The slower your consciousness, the faster life seems to be. Speed up your consciousness and life slows down. And this is why people who go into these higher states of consciousness, they are able to do so much in the same day. I have seen it with Swamiji, I have seen it with Ammaji. Elevated consciousness, beings who manifested elevated consciousness. So fortunate to be the son and inherit the spiritual and physical genetics. I have seen it. When the consciousness is elevated, time stands still. Because the video has become a sequence of images. It is like, if you look at the Avengers movies, Dr. Ananda, from the sublime to the ridiculous. Yeah. You look at the Avengers movie, you have Flash. And what Flash does is everybody's standing there. They are still there. He's already gone around and changed everything in the room. Because he's gone so fast. His consciousness is so fast. What seems like 1 second for everybody has been like 5 minutes for him to go and do whatever he needs to do. The only person who's able to catch him out is Superman. Because he is able to travel, at the speed of light. That is Superman's speciality. Imagine what I'm talking about. Because I have seen it. I've seen it with Swamiji and Ammaji. I have lived it. I have perceived it. I've experienced it with them. How the 24 hours of the day could be expanded, and in one day they ended up doing what people would take 1 month to do or even 1 year to do. Because what has happened, this is the secret. Maharishi Patanjali has given us the secret at the end of the Vibhuti Pada. Most people never get into the Vibhuti Pada or Kaivalya Pada, so they never get to this. They never get to this. The other day we started talking of something at ICYER, and Shushant, Garima and Chaitanya and Daya. And they had to put up with me as I went into one of these expositions. I started off with a fingerprint biometry, and it went into all of this flash. This flash example I was giving them the other day. You start to speed up your consciousness, so everybody is like, today is Saturday. And for you, it is like one whole year. And at the end of the Saturday, they say, nothing happened today. And you have done what nothing happened in their day. You have done what they would have done in 1 year. Why? You have been able to focus your mind. The key is focus, 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 focus. Sarvartha ekagrata yokshayo dayo. What you have to do is the sarvartha, your mind that is scattered everywhere. Bring it to ekagra. That is the process of samyama. Dharana, dhyana, samadhaya. Trayamekatva samyama. Bringing it together. And when you start to focus, you slow down. You slow down. The video slows down. And you start to see the sequence, and suddenly Vivekam awakens in you. Vivekam awakens in you. You say, oh my God, I can change what is happening. Otherwise, you're like, I'm a victim of circumstances. I cannot do anything. And then, of course, the famous word, it's my karma. Remember, karma is also what you do. Mindful karma is what dharma is all about. And when you live your dharma every moment, every kshana, because that kshana tatkamayo has been slowed down. Instead of being a video, it is now a collage of still images, and you can start to alter them. You can start to play around with them. You can start to modulate them with your free will in the present moment. Do it now. Din, din, din. Do it now. Din, din, din. That's what Swamiji would say. This is a very nice place to do my series. I'm in here because it's raining outside. Whenever I talk of Swamiji, I can just tilt my head and you see Swamiji. And whenever I talk about Ammaji, I tilt my head and you can see Ammaji. So Ammaji's message, I can, I will, I'm able. And Swamiji's message, do it now, do it now. And Ananda just has to sway Dolyati, and he can move between Ammaji and Swamiji. What a beautiful place to be here. And then now at this point you have all three together. What a beautiful opportunity. Slow things down. Slow your breath down. Slow your body down. And that is why Maharishi Patanjali has given the whole of the Yoga Anga. In Sadhana Pada, he tells us, why do you need to do the Yoga Anga? Why do you need Ashtanga Yoga? It's so clear. Yoga Anga Anushtanat. Through the observance and the living of the limbs of yoga. Yoga Anga Anushtanat. Ashuddhikshaye Jnana Deepti. All the impurities fall away. The higher consciousness, the light of the higher consciousness shines bright. Jnana Deepti. and Viveka Khyati, the development of the Viveka Khyati. That is the whole purpose. The development of Viveka is where you have the whole of the yoga anga. The yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, samadhaya, ashtau angani. They all exist so that this Viveka can be developed. See, the problem is, everybody says, oh, Viveka is there, but what do I do about it? This is where the holistic, wholesome, complete practice of yoga as a way of life enables Viveka to develop spontaneously as a result of your living yoga. The more you live yoga, the more the Viveka will develop. Now, you know, this is very similar to what Adi Shankara says. He says you need to do anusandhanam. On what? Swaswarupa. Swaswarupa. You need to do Swarupa Anusandhanam. You need to do contemplation on your essential nature. Swarupa. Swaswarupa. You need to start contemplating your own essential nature and make it a lived practice. Anusandhanam. Please note the similarity. Anusandhanam, Yoganga, Anushtanat. This is why I do not separate all of these streams of Indian thought. They are all one and the same. Putting them in boxes, all divisions, all human-made divisions are artificial. And even made a nice Instagram post yesterday for it. Because Achyutan picked it up from our Vishwa Yoga Prarthana. All human-made divisions are artificial. Oneness is the state of naturality. Oneness is natural. You know, this capacity of Viveka is essential. Maharishi Patanjali even uses a term. He says, Atma Bhava Bhavana. Atma Bhava Bhavana. The capacity to see the self. He uses the word Sabuddhi, Swabuddhi Samvedanam. All these terms are very similar when you look at it. Swaswarupa, he uses when you do when Chitta Vritti Nirodha occurs. Tadadrashtu Swarupe Avasthanam. Swarupa. Same. Swaswarupa Anusandhanam. This is why it is not something you do on your mat. It is something you live every moment, every kshana. So that kshana can be contemplated deeply in samyama and vivekajam jnanam will develop in you, will manifest through you. Adi Shankara says Shraddha is an essential quality. Faith, conviction is an essential quality. Same thing Maharishi Patanjali. Shraddha, Virya, Smriti, Samadhi, Prajna, Purvaka, Itaresham. Same thing. Bhakti is the second one Adi Shankara gives. Shraddha, Bhakti. What is Bhakti? Ishvara Pranidhana in the yogic system. Atman Prasadanam, according to Swamiji. Yeah, I tilted my head. You can see Swamiji now. And Dhyana Yoga. This is Adi Shankara's words in Viveka Chudamani. Shraddha, Bhakti and Dhyana Yogam. What is Dhyana Yogam? According to Maharishi Patanjali, Samyama. All are the same, but everybody just loves to say, oh, that's Vedanta. I will not go to that class because I study yoga. And that's yoga, so I will not do that because I am only on Vedanta. They are all one and the same. They are all about you. They are all about you realizing what is unreal, what is uneternal, what is impermanent, what is not the self and what is suffering, and moving from anitya, suchi, dukkha, anatmasu to sukha, nitya, suchi, sukha, atma khyati. You have to move, otherwise you are stuck in avidya. Because avidya is the hetu. Tasya hetu avidya. You have to eradicate avidya. How do you eradicate avidya? Viveka khyati aviplava hanopayah. By development of Viveka khyati. He's already given. Maharishi Patanjali has given everything there. We are not understanding it. We are not implementing it. He says that avidya is the root cause. Tasya hetu avidya. Tasya hetu avidya. How do you eradicate avidya? Viveka khyati. Development of Viveka khyati. Aviplava hanopayaha. The tool to achieve the goal of eradication of avidya and the misguided attachment to the unreal, Jagat Mithyam, and move to Brahma Satyam, Kaivalya. The tool is development of Viveka Khyati. How do you develop it? Go back to Ashtanga Yoga. Yoganga Anushtanat Ashuddhikshaye Jnana Deepti Aviveka Khyati. When you live all the limbs of yoga, when you are in the present moment, understanding each moment, Viveka Khyati develops, and the more the Viveka Khyati develops, what happens? Avidya is shed. The more the light shines, the less the darkness manifests. The light manifests and the darkness is dissipated, dissolves. The darkness dissolves when the light appears. When Jnana Deepti, Viveka Khyati manifests, the darkness of avidya has to disappear. It has no choice. Because darkness cannot be there when light is there. Darkness can only manifest in the absence of light. Now, someone who has Viveka is going to be a capable sadhaka. And so the word adhikarin. I see a question here from Dharani about adhikari. We call it an adhikarin. An adhikarin is one who is fit for that path of the highest. The path of the highest, the one who is fit, is called an adhikarin. And to be an adhikarin, you have to follow the adhikara yoga, which is yama niyama. Yama niyama is adhikara yoga that enables us to become an adhikarin. And the same concept is given in Vedanta, and Adi Shankara talks about it as sadhana chatustaya. The 4 requisites to be a sadhaka. And it's not buying a yoga mat. It's not paying your club membership to the yoga school. But please pay your membership on time, otherwise the schools will all collapse. Already the pandemic has collapsed so many yoga schools. Unless people have gone online. And I had a beautiful message from Larry Payne this morning about how the future model seems to be one where you have to have both. I think he called it a synco post or something. Sync post. Something like that, where you are doing both the live session and it's also, on Zoom for those who cannot be with you. I think that's where we are going. Avidya will disappear, Apu. Avidya will disappear the moment we start to live yoga. Because the yama niyama, that is where the yoganga anushtanat will enable the jnana deepti to occur. The jnana deepti, the inner light comes on, avidya will automatically go away. Viveka Khyati comes and suddenly you realize, oh my God, I thought I was the body. I was attached to my disease and suddenly it falls away. You say, I have a disease that I want to eradicate. I am not the disease. I am not my designation. I am not my post. I am not my relationship. And suddenly Adi Shankara's message comes back. Anatma Shrayaham Mamadya Sahana. Because all of this is based on Anatma Shrayaham. All of this. Na bhumin na toyam na tejo na vayu na kamnendriyam va na teshan samoha anaikantikatvat shushupte kasiddham tadeko vashishtam shivakevaloham. And suddenly you realize, I am not all these relationships. Na mata pitava na deva na loka na veda na yajna na tirtam bhuvantihi shushuptau nirastati shunyatmakatvat tadeko vashishtam shivakevaloham. You start to realize I'm not all these attachments that I have got attached to. Please refer to my Who Am I series last time. We have gone into this. So the sadhana chadustaya, the 4 requisites to be a sadhaka, to be on this path. And what does Vedanta say? And Ashtavakra, the great rishi, who was born with 8 twists in his body because he had so much knowledge in his mother's womb, he started to correct his father. Hey, Papa, you are chanting it wrong. Imagine you are chanting to your baby, your wife while the baby is in the womb, and you are chanting and the baby says, hey, Papa, you are chanting it wrong. He says, you are so impertinent. Huh? Adi Prasanga, we call it. Adhika Prasangi. He curses him, you will be born with 8 twists. He is born with 8 twists. He is called Ashtavakra. And he gives us the Ashtavakra Samhita. And he also gives this, and Adi Shankara also gives this. It's found in many texts. The 4 qualities of being a sadhaka. Sadhana Chatustaya. First is Viveka. If you don't have Viveka, you cannot be a sadhaka. So you have to first work on Viveka. According to Adi Shankara, the methodology, Shraddha, Bhakti, Dhyana Yoga. I have told you Shraddha is already part of the Patanjali's prerequisites. Bhakti is Ishvara Pranidhana, and Dhyana Yoga. Dhyana Yoga, which is Samyama, according to Patanjali. So, Viveka, the second is Vairagya. So, Viveka, Vairagya, both are working, coming from the Ajna Chakra. I've told you there has to be a leap of transformation from the spinal centers to the brow center. Then 6 qualities, they are called the Shat Sampat or Shat Sampati. Shama, which is control of the mind. Dhamma, which is control of the senses. Uparti, which is equanimity of the mind. Titiksha, which is forbearance, the capacity to get through it. What Patanjali would call like virya there, sort of to get through it, is here. Samadhana, the capacity to keep the mind totally on that highest state. The truth, the highest state. And Shraddha is again brought out here. So, Shama, Dhamma, Uparti, Titiksha, Samadhana, and Shraddha. These are the Shat Sampati. So, Viveka, Vairagya, Shat Sampati, and then that burning desire to make it. Mumukshutva. Mumukshutva. The one who has it is called a mumukshu. 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 The other day I heard Mug saying, break it into pieces so you can understand it better. Mumukshu. 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 And mumukshutva is the twa, is the being it. Mumukshutva, mumukshutva, mumukshu. So you are a mumukshu if you have that burning desire for liberation. So important. Viveka, Vairagya, Shat Sampati, and mumukshutva. What beautiful qualities to develop. Everybody thinks, I am ready for meditation. I am ready for yoga. I bought the mat. I paid the club fees. Give it all to me. I just have this weekend. Give it all to me because I'm me. What a privileged statement that is. Someone recently said, you have to make sure you give your students what they want. Consumeristic approach to modern yoga. Consumeristic approach is the student dictates what they will be given. That is where the role of the guru comes in. What does that individual need rather than what they want? There's a big difference. As a parent, what does your child need rather than what they want? As a guide, what does your mentee need rather than what they want? You have to be able to have that discernment. Very important. Very important. And Maharishi Patanjali's concept of this is so beautiful because he keeps reminding us. He says through this Vivekajam Jnanam, He says it is a knowledge. It is a knowledge that is tarakam. It is universal. Sarva Vishayam, Sarvartha Vishayam, Akravam Cheti Vivekajam Jnanam. It is not an ordinary Vivekajam Jnanam, is not the ordinary stuff. It is eternal because it sees the bigger picture. And he says, through this, you start to understand that fine distinctions that are there between Purusha and Sattva. And he says, Vishesha Darshana Atma Bhava Bhavana Nivrittihi. What a beautiful concept. I told you that concept of Swaswarupa here. Atma Bhava Bhavana. And in that higher state, Prasankyane Apya Kusidasya Sarvata Viveka Kyati. When that happens in the Kaivalya Pada, he tells us, Dharmamega Samadhi. Through this, you are moving into Dharmamega Samadhi. That Dharmamega Samadhi, where that rain cloud of virtue, of Dharma, washes away all that which is not you. And suddenly, you and Purusha are one and the same. And presto, that moment of Kaivalya occurs. The concept of Atma Vichara, to inquire into the self-reflection is an essential tool. Every moment should be a moment of self-reflection. Who am I? What am I doing? Where am I? What is my role in this? How can I change things? There should be a constant self-reflection, because that is the way forward. And to be grateful to the divine for three things. Adi Shankara tells us. He says we should be grateful to the divine. Gratitude is the highest attitude. Manushyattvam. He says to be a Manushya, to be born human, we have to have gratitude to the divine because it is a rare occurrence. To have the burning desire for liberation, Mumukshutvam. So one is we should be grateful that we have been born human. We should be grateful we have this burning desire to reach that higher state. Manushyatvam, Manushya. To be a Manushya and to be a Mumukshwa. Mumukshutva. Mumukshu. So, Manushyatvam, Mumukshutvam. And the third thing we should be grateful is Mahapurusha Samshraya. To be with great beings. To be in a satsanga with great souls who enable us to grow. Have gratitude that you are human. Have gratitude that you have this desire for the higher life. And have gratitude that you have the company of the wise who are guiding you and supporting you on that path. Three important things that are blessings for which we need to be grateful, because if we are not grateful for our blessing, we will lose it. Last night I was asking Ammaji, I was teasing her. So I said, you know what is the goal of my life? Well, I tease her that the goal of my life right now is to keep her as comfortable as possible. And that is my present goal in life. Keep Ammaji as comfortable as possible. So I said, that's a goal. And I talk about it. So I said, do you know what is my goal in life? And she said, to lead others. I was like, wow. To lead others. And I said, lead them where? Into the well? Off the cliff? I said, okay, if my goal in life is to lead others, lead them where? And she said, into the ever after. What a goal she's setting. Talk about goal setting. Oh my God, Ammaji. There are so many stories associated with this Ajna Chakra, the third eye of Lord Shiva. Shiva is called Triyambaka, Trinetra, Trilochana. And it is said that there was a moment where Parvati very playfully closes his third eye and the whole world goes andha, goes dark and blind. They of course say an asura, Andhaka asura, is born out of it. The closing of that third eye, everything goes dark because avidya takes over. And that is why the third eye of discernment, of Viveka coming from the buddhi, has to be opened. This is the same third eye of discernment that Lord Shiva burns kama, signifying desire. And the desire that then attaches to everything. The Bhagavad Gita tells us very clearly how the downfall of the human being occurs. Thinking of dwelling on the sensory objects, you get attached to them. From that attachment, comes everything, and finally you don't get it, you get angry. From rage, loss of buddhi, discernment, and you do something stupid and you are destroyed. Dhyayato vishayan pumsa sangasteshu pajayate. Sangad samjayate kamat krodho abhijayate. Krodhat bhavati sammohat. Sammohat smriti vibhrama. Smriti vibhramshat buddhinasho. Buddhinashat pranaschati. And that is why you have to transcend it. Raga dvesha vimuktaistu. Vishayan indriyascharan. Atma vashye vidayatma prasadam adhigacchati. When you can transcend it, that is where that power of discernment, going beyond, making that leap from the lower 5 centers to the Ajna, enhancing the buddhi, enhancing the Vijnanamaya kosha, enhancing the capacity of discernment. And this power of discernment is challenged. There's a story in our culture of Nakira, a great devotee of Shiva, who challenges Shiva by saying, your composition is wrong. Shiva gives a poetic composition. And Nakira says it's wrong. Shiva says it's my composition. He says, even if it is your composition, it is wrong. And Shiva opens his third eye and he says, I'll burn you to ashes. And Nakira makes that famous statement from Thiruvilayadal. Mukkan thirappinum kutram kutrame. Even if you open the third eye, what is wrong, it cannot be changed. That is his dedication to the truth, dedication to the reality. And a test for him is brought out. The third eye of discernment, which comes when you awaken thee. You have to shift from the me, which is avidya based. From avidya based, from the avidya based, me, the maya based, all that maya based. Jagat Mityam, me, mine. Remember, my, maya. Maya is me, mine, my, maya. Me. To thee, the buddhi, where the Viveka Khyati can come alive. And where that buddhi can spring into its pristine purity, illuminating our life and enabling us to see the choices that lie ahead of us. As Yamaraja, Dharmaraja tells that young boy, Nachiketa, in the Kathopanishad, there is the Shreya Marga, the path, the noble path. And there is the path of enjoyment, Preya Marga, where everybody is going and falling prey to something. Preya Marga, the path of where you fall prey to something. He says you have to make a choice. The paths are in front of you. In the woods, there is the path that is less traveled. Sometimes you have to make it. You may feel a bit lonely at times, but then you realize you are not alone. To feel lonely, you are all one. And that is where that discernment, hamsaya vidmahe, you want to manifest that discernment that is in the hamsa and become a paramahamsa through the Ajna Chakra. That is why the Gayatri mantra of the Ajna Chakra is Om hamsaya vidmahe paramahamsaya dhimahi tanno hamsa prachodayate om. You want that paramahamsa in you. Everyone is a potential paramahamsa. Just don't call yourself that before you are that. And most of the people who call themselves paramahamsa are not paramahamsa. Most of the people who call themselves a yogi are not. Hamsa hamsaya vidmahe. Because otherwise what happens, if that doesn't awaken, you will be caught in the emotional survival instinct that drives your limbic system. And when your limbic system is hyperactive, when you are emotionally volatile, there will be no discernment at all. In our Tamil culture, we say, Atyara karanakka buddhi mattu. The buddhi is lost when anger comes in. The same that Lord Krishna had said. Smriti Brahmshad Buddhi Nasho. Why is Smriti Brahmshad? Krodad Bhavati Sammoha. Sammohat Smriti. See, from Krodha, which is rage, Krodad Bhavati Sammoha. Sammohat Smriti Vibhrama. Smriti Brahmshad Buddhi Nasho. The Buddhi goes out. And in that, you make a wrong choice. The power of choice is the superpower of being human. That is the power of discernment. That is the power of Vivekam. And that is the power that is brought alive by living the Yoganga Anushtanat. And through the constant Atma Vichara, self-reflection, and Swaswarupa Anusandana, making it a daily practice and every moment practice of self-reflection. Trying to understand our real nature. This is the message I wanted to share today. Have gone a bit longer than usual. But an important message on this day that we are culminating one full year of Scintillating Saturdays. And by being on the other side of the screen, you have enabled me to grow through this sharing. The more we care, the more we share. The more we share, the more we care. And in sharing, caring, we are growing. We are growing. We are growing in spirit. So never hold on. Katvathu kai mannalavu, as Abhaya says. Kalladadu ulagalavu. What we know is this much. As long as you keep your fist closed, you are just going to lose it. It's going to rot. Rot. R-O-T. Rot. Share it and it grows. The more you share what you have, the more it grows. The more you hold on to it, the more it decays and rots. Share. Sharing is caring. And through sharing and caring, you grow. And as you grow, others can grow with you. Because when you are a light to yourself, what happens? There's no shadow. And when you are light to yourself, you have no shadow. And when there's no shadow, others also have the light. When you are shadow and when you are dark, well, you are waiting for somebody else to switch the light on. Don't wait for somebody else to do it for you. Don't wait for somebody else to do it for you. As Swamiji would say, do it now. Do it now. Do it now. And as Ammaji would say, I can, I will, I'm able. Do it now, I can, I am able. Do it now, I can, I will, I am able. Do it now, I can, I will, I am able. That is what we want. May you all be blessed. May we all be blessed. Namaste, Dhanyavadaha. Danke, Kia ora. Any greetings of gratitude may it be offered to each and every one of you. Thank you so much. Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu Sarve Janaha Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shantihi Shantihi Shantihi. Om